in the Toronto airport, terminal number 1, and this is going to be the report of our new adventure in China and the Himalaya mountains.
The date had a special meaning to me, as when we crossed the international date line over the North Pole, it was my birthday, and we had a small celebration in the plane. And there was a surprise celebration upon arrival in Beijing as well, an occasion to introduce the members of the group.
Chicalin Alexandrescu. Florin.
Really? Tudor. Oh yeah.
Milena, Tuzian.
That happened shortly after we arrived at the Beijing airport. That was something as large as a city. And here we are carrying our luggage in the Hutong, the historical city center, once occupied by the servants of the palace. An environment really that you wouldn't like to visit again, although considered extremely chic. These pictures show the traditional atmosphere inside the Hutong Hotel. However, dinner was in a large modern shopping mall. And this is the place where, in fact, myself and my twin brother were celebrated for our birthdays. The restaurants are kind of canteens where you are dumped 12 courses without any logic and nobody speaks English. And this is the name of the animated pedestrian-only district where the restaurant was located. Next morning we are en route, and the first lesson will be the language lesson.
Hello.
你好，你好吗 means how are you? 丁丁好。
And cheers is Kambei. But where are we crowding now? Tiananmen Square, the National Museum, the Party Congress building, guarded by the Beijing Gate, and the Archer's Tower. What are these people lining up for? To visit the Mao Mausoleum, and this is a fraction of the zigzag line only. The square is dedicated to Chairman Mao, who created the Big China in '49 after gaining prestige in the '30s in the Long March when he fought the nationalistic regime. It is here that we take our first group photo. As we enter the gate of the Imperial Forbidden City under Chairman Mao's portrait, let's review some ancient history. We confine ourselves to the imperial history, specifically to dynasties that ruled over a united country. And this starts with the Qin dynasty, spelled with Q, which gave the name to China. It was the same Qin emperor that built the Great Wall and surrounded his tomb by the terracotta warriors. Around 200 BC, the great thinkers of the Orient, Lao Tzu, who created Taoism, Confucius, and in India, Buddha, already lived around 500 BC. Mind that if you add letter G to the Qin dynasty, you obtain the last dynasty, Qing. Founded by a peasant rebel, Han was the second imperial dynasty. We saw the king, the courtesan, and the outfit of the ordinary men here. The Tang dynasty was celebrated for refinement. It was at that time, 1,000 years after its creation, that Buddhism took over China. Yuan was the Mongol dynasty, created by Genghis Khan and Kublai. The Ming dynasty was a period of stability and great constructions. The Great Wall was rebuilt in brick, and the Forbidden City we are entering now dates from the Ming period. And finally the Qing dynasty ruled for 350 years. The last empress, the Dragon Lady, was a former courtesan who became empress and regent and who surrendered to the Republic in 1911. And we are back into the present. As we pass through the Tiananmen Gate, we see the walls of the Forbidden City and the place where the emperor was showing himself to the public. Starting from this courtyard, only the dignitaries could enter, and each rank on a different bridge. We are crossing towards the Gate of Supreme Harmony. The tiles of the buildings are color-coded. These are golden, which means that the building is occupied by the emperor. The roof corners have, depending on the rank of the building, a line of 3 to 10 statuettes, starting with a man riding a phoenix bird, followed by the imperial dragon. And this is a pair of imperial dragons, the male on the left playing with a ball, and the female on the right, because she's always right, playing with a baby lion. The constructions are in painted wood and the courtyards in marble. We are on the other side of the Gate of Supreme Harmony now, climbing towards the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the main ceremonial hall in the palace. It's surrounded by incense burning pots like this one, or pots holding water in case of fire. And we are trying to have a glance towards the room of the throne. Not very impressive, really. Behind there are 2 more pavilions. In the one in the back, the emperor was changing his outfit into gold. Here he was having a rest before walking into the Hall of Supreme Harmony. From this high point we see a mountain in the back. It's an artificial pile of ash obtained from collecting the coal burnt in the palace. Next are the private quarters that remind of the last Qings. For instance, the Lady Dragon was sitting on that yellow bench and through the yellow screen was directing the child, the last emperor of China. And this is the courtyard of the empress herself. In general, the interiors are rather crowded and uncomfortable to our modern conditions. The emperor was surrounded by 70 concubines and 3,000 beauties. This would be the dorm of a concubine. And he was picking the beauties from this courtyard. Each one would have her window decorated with precious stone flowers. The visit ends in a small botanical garden. It was a pretty long tour. People are relaxing or crowding towards the exit, scared by the rain. We are just outside the Forbidden City walls. It is April the 23rd, and the trees are just blooming. Another landmark of Beijing, built simultaneously with the Forbidden City, is the Temple of Heaven. Now taken over by the Tai Chi enthusiasts, it was the site where the emperor was performing Taoist and shamanist invocations to the heaven for good harvest. There are 3 buildings in the park, all circular, because heaven was represented by a circle and earth by a square. That was an open-air altar, and we are heading towards the imperial vault, which is surrounded by a circular echo wall. The communication with the heaven was in the form of written tablets, as shown here. We then take a causeway segregated into strips for gods, emperor, empress, and dignitaries, and step up towards the temple for prayer for the good harvest. There is a lot of numerology here. There are 3 roofs for the heaven, emperor, and people. The steps are in multiples of 9, 9 being the emperor number, and the number of columns inside are related to the calendar. The original ceremonies were elaborate and involved sacrificing animals. Now the corridors designated for animals are used by the aging Chinese population for playing domino. With these images we leave the Temple of Heaven because we have another great destination. Towards the mountains we approach the Great Wall. Going up is easy by cable bay. On the top, you can't have enough of walking and watching. Finally, coming down is even more interesting, by tobogganing. We are back in the heart of Beijing. It's traditional to visit the Hutong by rickshaw, which is what we are doing now. Chairman Mao lived in the Hutong. A house there costs now up to $10 million. Here is one of them. We are shown how to roll dumplings, and we are helped a representative meal. The environment is inspiring. This Hutong has even its private bathroom, which even has 2 seats side by side. Sliding along the line of food vendors, we return to the Hutong Hotel by night. The following day was Easter Sunday, and we celebrated it in the traditional Eastern European style with colored eggs and rolls brought over from home. And then it was time to go. We rushed through the streets of modern Beijing to the airport, where, after a second round of Easter treats, we boarded the internal flight which took us, with a halfway stopover in Chengdu, to Lhasa.